Good to go, you think?
Good. Yeah.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Allison from BTI, and welcome to our first ever live interview on the Enduro Corner. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future
Awesome. Hello,
videos.
everybody.
All right. So we also today are going to have Natalie here from BTI. She will be our technical guru and moderator. So if you have any questions for Cooper, please leave them in the comments and we will try to get to those as they come. But without further ado, today we have a super rad and exciting guest, one of the fastest female enduro racers and just riders out there, Cooper Ott. So thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We are stoked to have you as our first guest. Definitely trying to highlight some more awesome female riders out there, and who better than you? So we're stoked. Thank you. Awesome. So let's get right into it. We have a slew of questions and stuff we wanted to kind of chat about today. So just to start off, we'd love to hear a little bit about your journey into racing and enduro specifically. What kind of brought you here? What was your story leading up to this point?
Yeah. So my husband Phil and I moved out to the Gunnison Valley about 5.5, 6 years ago now, and with the intentions of being closer to more cross country races and racing the epic rides like Whiskey 50 and all those long endurance races. And I did the first one and I was like, this isn't really me. And then the next weekend I signed up for the Enduro Cup in Moab and I went and raced, and I think I crashed on 3 out of 4 of the stages, ran up a hill because my shifting was like I wasn't prepared for it at all, and got done, and Phil asked me, he's like, so what did you think? And I was like, that was awesome. I'm only doing enduro from now on. And then I signed up for all the big mountain enduros, somehow got a lottery entry into the Aspen Enduro World Series that year, and that's just kind of like jumped right in. But it was definitely a change. I had a full cross country season planned and had some enduro races that I wanted to do, but wasn't a priority, and completely flip-flopped everything.
For sure. That's a big change. Was there something about enduro that stood out to you more than cross country, or something you liked better? Obviously it's a lot of fun, but was there anything specific?
Yeah, I think that it was like the group of women that I raced with in Moab. It was just, everyone was so welcoming, and it was just a relaxed environment, and I could sleep the night before. I wasn't up like nervous all night, and it was just a new challenge, and it kind of like matched with my skill set a little bit better. I mean, I was always more of a power racer, like short and sweet distances for cross country I was good at, but like anything longer, I kind of fell off the back of the pace quite a bit. And so it was a better match for me in my fitness level and skills.
I resonate with that. That's why I do DH races. I can't imagine doing a cross country race. It sounds like such a sufferfest, but hey, more power to you. Awesome. That's really interesting. I think it's cool to see that you've kind of swapped back and forth from that. Just on that same note, talking about your kind of riding style, is there something about enduro or that lended itself more to your riding style? You like riding more techie stuff and jumps and, even days in the bike park, or, what are your preferences?
Yeah, so I would say it's actually kind of evolved. When I first started racing enduro, I was taking all of the beelines because I had no confidence I couldn't hit a drop. I didn't know much about jumping. I was surviving and doing well because I was like, oh, I can corner. I'm a good cornerer. But ask anyone. It was really kind of confusing, and I had to work on my skills a lot. And I think that challenge was really it was really eye-opening to me that I needed to do so much work on my skill set to be competitive in enduro, and it was such a good like motivator. Like all of these women that are hitting these huge drops or like hitting these jumps and like riding so well, I wanted to be like them. I wanted to join the club. So like who doesn't like days in the bike park? Come on.
Definitely I do.
Go ride with.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely different, but it's perfect. A trial by fire, it sounds like. Just learn from your experiences. When did you start in Enduro? What year do you remember?
So when we lived in the Midwest, I used to race in like the Midwest Enduro races, which now looking back on it are more like a little timed, like they're still downhill, but they were more of like a timed cross country, a lot of fitness involved. And
wow.
so, but then when we moved out here, it was 2015, I believe. And so it was the summer of 2016 would have been my first Enduro season.
Nice. That's awesome. And I mean, you started stacking up BME races at least right out the gate. So you're crushing it. That's awesome. That on that same note, do you have a kind of favorite like track or place you like to ride? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually one of my friends asked that question the other day on her Instagram, and she was like, "What's the best enduro race that I should do?" And actually, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Big Mountain Enduro is one of my favorites. I mean, I remember my first year racing there, and it was the first year they held the race there at Glorieta, and we didn't get done. I think awards were at 9:15 at night because the race was like 10 hours. It was so long, and oh man, it just pushed you fitness wise on a couple stages, and it pushed my skills on a couple stages where I'm taking all the beelines, and it was really cool I think I've raced that race 3 or 4 years now. And it's like every year I ride something I didn't ride the previous year. And so
Nice.
there's still room for improvement. I still took beelines the last time I raced there because I wasn't confident in hitting a drop or like taking the risk. So I think it's a really cool
Totally.
place. The trail.
Yeah, so for sure. Some of those drops at Glorieta are a little janky and weird. So I totally feel you. For those that don't know, BTI and myself are based in Santa Fe. So she's talking about some of our home riding trails and super popular Glorieta, awesome, big, burly, gnarly trails. And yeah, the BME definitely, at least in those first few years, a lot of climbing, gnarly stages. So it's cool to hear you say you like that. I've always thought about racing it, and I'm like, I don't like suffering that much. Like it's like the next level.
Oh, you got to just get out there. It's not like you're suffering alone. You get to suffer with your friends.
Fair enough. No, I love it. That's awesome. It's a good race. I'm hopeful we're able to have it again this year as well. So cool. I mean, a little bit about your history there. When did you start riding? Like, what are you newer to mountain biking? It sounds like racing is kind of relatively new, but when did you start riding mountain bikes specifically?
So my dad was always a mountain biker, but my parents are the type of parents that aren't going to push us into doing really anything. Like if we wanted to do it, we always had a mountain bike like at our house, and I could ride it if I wanted to. And if I rode it to the beach with my friends, I rode to the beach with my friends, and he wasn't ever upset about that, which is really cool. And I love that about my parents. But I really didn't start riding until when I was a senior in high school. My favorite teacher, shout out to Schulte Boy, he started a mountain bike club, and we rode once a week. And I think there were like incentives, like if I didn't tip over with my clipless shoes, that he would buy me ice cream. And that's like kind of when I really started mountain biking, and just carried that into college and beyond.
That's amazing. I mean, it's all about the reward, right? Like the pizza afterwards, the burgers, the beers, whatever, like getting to eat whatever you want. It's huge. That's awesome. Well, that was one of my questions for later. I'm assuming I wanted to ask clips versus flats, but I'm assuming you're on clips for the most part.
Yeah, I would say I'm like 90-10. So 90% of the time I'm running clipless shoes and pedals and for racing. And then when I'm coaching, I'm strictly on flats because you can't teach good technique. You can totally cheat when you're on clipless. But
True that. Do you ever, so mostly just for coaching, do you ever ride it on are there any trails or anything you like where you're like, oh man, flats, this is the way to go?
No, not that I would like choose over clipless, but I definitely like coaching. I one summer, like it must have been 2 years ago, I actually made a point to do every single day I coached the kids, I would ride in flats on my hardtail. And that really helped because I had to have super heavy feet in order for my feet to stay on those pedals. But it's really good practice.
One of those things when you're guiding or coaching that you're like, oh man, I got to make sure my skills are on point too. So when I'm demoing, it actually translates. I totally am with you on that. Cool. Well, let's, on that same kind of note, I'd love to pick your brain a little bit about the bike industry, your sponsorships and kind of stuff like that. Things are obviously interesting right now with the elephant in the room that is COVID. So we won't try and harp too much on that, but I'd love to hear about your journey into sponsorship and how you got aligned with certain brands and what that relationship looked like.
Yeah. So when I first started racing out here in Colorado, I was riding for the Honey Stinger team and they were sponsored by Trek. And so that worked out well because I had already been riding for Trek and my husband, Phil, used to own a truck shop in Michigan. So it kind of opened doors there. And we have a ton of really awesome friends that work there. And so it lined up really well. And I spent like 6 years racing for Trek. And then, just recently, this will be my third year riding for Pivot. And I love it. It's amazing. And I love the bikes and I love that there's more opportunity for like opening up the door to other sponsors. And so I can ride for Stans and Shimano and Maxxis and Fox and all of those other companies as well.
Awesome. That's really cool. Do you have, if you can answer this, do you have a favorite pivot? Like obviously you've got your race rig, but what's your favorite go-to for trail riding? Like what's your setup kind of like?
Ooh, that's a good question. My first thought in my head was, well, the Switchblade is like the awesome do-it-all bike. I grab that more than any other bike in my garage usually, but then the shuttle popped into my head and I love riding an e-bike.
I love that. I love to hear that. Hey, that's good. That's a hot take right now. E-bikes, good.
If you haven't tried one, go borrow a friend's. You're always welcome to borrow mine if you're in the valley, but man, if you want to like end with a perma smile on your face, just take one out.
Totally. I mean, I just envision myself riding in your area, something like, Teocalli or going up to Monarch Crest and being able to do like multiple laps without getting tired or tired.
Yeah. Or double days. Go out in the morning on a pedal bike and e-bike in the afternoon. It's great.
Exactly. I love it. Perfect. That's cool. So you obviously digging Pivot and seems like a great fit for you. I know the team sounds awesome, super supportive. Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. It is truly more like a family than like a team or like a company. I can always call and ask questions whenever I need to, and they support so many women in the sport, and that's really important to me as well because sometimes it's difficult to find sponsorship being a woman, and the fact that they are fully supporting so many of us, it's amazing. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's huge. That's way mega. On that same note, you spoke to some difficulties about getting sponsorships. What kind of hurdles or battles were there trying to break into the racing scene and being sponsored and getting that kind of recognition as a female specifically?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a tough question because it's like there's so many different parts to it. But
Totally.
we really need more women out there racing. And so if you're thinking about it, go out there. We need more women in our field to make the field more competitive and to show that like there's interest. And it's like anything. It's getting better. Every year it's getting better with sponsorship with being a woman. But it's hard to compare sometimes when there's a field of 15 women versus the field of 55 men. I think that's kind of a struggle as far as like results go in a way. But it's also like brands want to see like you out there and not only just racing, but like coaching and trying new things and going on adventures and just being a good all-around ambassador. And so that's also really cool to see.
Totally. Yeah, that's a lot of good points. Do you have any, not to sound too silly, but any advice for females trying to break into it? I know from my own experience, the getting to that first race is always the hardest. And then I think like you've kind of touched on, the female kind of ridership at racing is actually a lot less like competitive, aggro, like it's very supportive. And I think that that's really cool. I don't know, any advice or anything you can kind of speak to on that for people that are thinking about it, but just haven't quite gone for it yet?
Yeah, definitely. I will say like when I was headed in that first big mountain enduro, I was nervous. I didn't know any of those women that I would be racing against, and I had read their names on pink bikes so many times and like, gosh, it's gonna be so cool. But I think it's just like a good way to do it is to grab a friend, find a girlfriend of yours that wants to get into it as well, and so that way you have a buddy going into it. But just know that everyone is super friendly and just start the conversation and find someone to transfer up all the transfers with, and you'll have more friends than like at the end of the race than when you started for sure.
That is awesome. Yeah, definitely true. And I know a lot of race series too are doing more kind of like sport or open categories to try and make it a little bit more inclusive too, to break down some of those walls for people to just go for it. But yeah, it's definitely intimidating. I can't imagine my first race being, or one of my first races being like a Santa Fe Glorietta race, but that's awesome. On that same kind of note, do you think that, I think right now, especially with the kind of the climate of how everything is right now, we really are trying to break down more barriers, get more inclusivity in the bike industry for female and all people, essentially, to get, a little more inclusive. Anything you can speak to on that about, how we could maybe get more females in the bike industry? I know I know that's a big question. It's tough. Yeah.
I think we just need more women riding bikes. And so that's like one of my things that I love doing here in the Gunnison Valley is coaching some clinics and getting more women confident on their bikes and with their skills. And so then they're out there riding more. And the more women we have out there riding, they'll convince their friends to come out and ride with them. And I think just we need strength in numbers. We got to have more of us.
Totally. Absolutely. Representation for sure. And where are you guiding with, or can you tell us who you coach for so we could maybe link that later if anyone's interested in the Colorado area?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll do some like adult clinics and adult private lessons through Colorado Backcountry Bike Academy. And also I coach for Crested Butte Development Team, which is the kids program in town. And that is so much fun.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, the kids are where my heart is for sure, but I also love coaching the adults too.
That's awesome. Are there any in terms of working with brands and your sponsorships, not just your sponsorships, but kind of industry wide, are there I think most females and a lot of different people can say that sometimes they struggle finding gear or stuff that works for them or fits or what have you. What are there any changes or you would like to see, or anything you think, maybe some struggles you've had that you had to overcome or anything like that?
As far as like gear goes, definitely. I mean, again, like the more women that are riding, the better all these companies are getting at making women specific gear. So like it's like things like a saddle, or my Ergon women's saddle is the most comfortable thing I've ever I've ever used on my bicycle. And I can ride I can ride on a I can go on a bike ride without a chamois if I need to, and no issues. And that's huge. Having a women specific saddle. We're much different than men, and so it's nice to have something like that on our bikes. And then as far as like clothing and stuff goes too, like Pearl Izumi is doing a really good job of having more high tech women's gear. And the shorts are long enough to cover your pads now, and little things like that make a huge difference. If you're comfortable when you're riding, you're gonna ride more and longer, as far as I'm concerned. At least I do. But yeah.
Totally. No, it's crazy to see it kind of evolving. And I know a lot of us have just had to try men's products for so long, and it's like, hey, these don't actually work. We need to fix it. But yeah, I'm with you. Ergon saddles all day. Like there's a lot of brands out there doing good stuff to be more inclusive. On that same kind of similar note, exciting upcoming change in your life. You are very close to becoming a new mom. So congratulations. That's exciting. So how do you balance that? Like I know obviously it's a lot of change that's going to be happening, and we've got COVID and racing and everything. But for, those other like-minded, young moms or just moms out there, any advice?
Yeah. I think that I don't know yet. We're gonna find out in approximately 20 days or something like that. But I'm really looking forward to to finding the balance. I'm leaving the door open for racing this year. We'll see what happens. If I'm motivated and ready to go, then I will definitely sign up. I'm not closing that door at all. I have lots of coaching on the calendar already, and so I'm really excited to jump back into the bike world starting in May. And so I'll have a couple months at home with the new baby, and then get right back on the coaching train. And I've heard there's some sort of mom strength, so I think that I'm curious to see how that goes, and get on those longer rides and teach this little baby all about the outdoor world.
Well, they are definitely going to have some badass rider parents to show them the way. So definitely going to be awesome. It's super exciting. Congratulations. That's great. Cool. Well, so kind of switching gears a little bit, talking a little bit more. We've had some good conversations about, the industry. I'd love to hear, talking a little bit about your plans. It sounds like it's, hard to say exactly with COVID, but what do you think the future has in store for us in terms of racing with COVID and things kind of developing? Is there anything you've heard lately from, Pivot or just that world? Like, are we going to race? Like, what's going on?
I hope so. I have high hopes for racing to come back. I think that we all learned a lot last summer, and learned what worked and what didn't work. And also people's comfort levels. Everyone's different, and it's important to respect that and respect their choices. And I bet racing will come back for sure. And I think that it might be a little different for a while. I don't think we're going to go right back to normal very quickly, but yeah, I'm excited to see that there were races that happened last fall, and they went well, and they were safe. And so I have high hopes. I think it'll happen this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hope so. Cool. Well, great insight. It's awesome. So a couple fun questions, something kind of mix it up. Do you remember what your first real mountain bike was? Like maybe your first bike that really got you stoked and we're like, all right, this is it.
Oh, my first real mountain bike. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go with my first mountain bike was the Specialized Hard Rock or something. It was like a 24-inch, when I was a little kid.
Classic.
Frog squeaker horn on the handlebars. But I'm cautious to use the word adults because I was in college, and I don't know if that was quite where I was at that point. But my first mountain bike when I was in college, I had a Cannondale Prophet, I think, with a lefty fork, and oh my gosh, I broke that thing all the time.
That's awesome.
It had 3x on it, and I didn't know how to shift, and so I was constantly bending chain rings and just contaminating rotors, and yeah, it was not a good scene.
Classic. Nah, I just love it. We always all start out with like some clapped out, hardtail or something. So it's perfect. I love it. Cool. So, and where did you kind of grow up riding? I know you mentioned the Midwest, but where are we talking?
Yeah, so I grew up in the northern Lower Peninsula. So, all the way for those Michigan
Nice.
people. But then when I went to college up in Marquette at Northern Michigan University, and there's awesome riding up there. So that's where I really feel like my mountain biking kind of took off.
That's awesome. I feel like the Midwest is an underrepresented or underrated area of the country for riding, and there's some sick areas out there. Michigan, tons of other places. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So since we obviously at BTI we do sell bike parts, what are 3 of your like must-have almost every ride, like what can you not live without on your rides or on your bike or with your setup, anything like that?
Yeah, the 3 things I can't live without. Oh, the first thing has to be a dropper post. I can't live without my dropper post.
Naturally.
And I'm stoked that Fox is making a 175 that fits in my bike now, and so I have even more drop, and that's definitely my favorite feature for sure. I don't think I can live without my Ergon women's saddle. It just makes me happy.
Hey, goes a long way. It makes sense. Any other like products gear wise or anything like that you just can't get enough of?
Well, I mean, yeah, it sounds so simple, but like my drivetrain, never have to, my Shimano 12-speed XTR, I never have to adjust, and it's always crisp. And when I'm busy coaching kids and things like that, I don't want to have to worry about that. And so definitely that. For sure.
Are you intrigued at all by like wireless drivetrains or anything? Have you played around with those?
I haven't much. I'm definitely intrigued. I think that like it's cool to see less things coming off your handlebars, but right now I'm pretty happy. I don't know.
Nice.
You'd have to like be pretty hard to get me to switch.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw there was a pink bike poll the other day that was like, what would you change on your bike? And I was like, nothing. Like everything's good.
Like my bike, like yeah, I have my bike that I built last year is like my dream bike. I can't think of anything I would change on it.
It's dialed. That's perfect. Have you played around with wheel size setups at all, or are you pretty set on one?
I'm pretty stuck on my 29-inch wheels. Yep. Yeah, I haven't run 27.5 in probably 7 years or something, and
wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty stuck.
Rightfully so. I understand that. I like the 29ers as well. Definitely. I was curious if you had ever tried a mullet setup, since that's kind of in vogue right now.
I have not. I haven't tried an official mullet setup. I am mullet curious for sure.
Aren't we all? Love it. It's good to try. That's awesome. So, cool. We're kind of get close to wrapping up here soon. Do you have like a favorite trail you like to ride? Like, if you could be anywhere right now riding, where would you be?
Whoa. That's I think that like whatever trail is dry and shreddy that day is the one I'm going to want to be on. Here in the Gunnison Valley, there's like 750 miles of single track. It's kind of hard to pick a trail. And I used to always say it was Dr. Park, but the more I explore here, the more I'm finding other trails, and 409.5 is one of my new favorites that I've been riding quite a bit more. Waterfall Creek. Oh, Hunter. See, one trail just leads to another. No, that's my favorite. Whatever trail leads to ice cream at the end, I think is my favorite.
Perfect. All right. Favorite ice cream flavor, post-ride ice cream.
Ooh, Third Bowl makes this strawberry rhubarb pie ice cream. Pretty good.
That sounds incredible. I like that. That's different, but just different enough.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, on that same note, do you have kind of a favorite guilty pleasure of yours, whether it be a food, a post-ride snack, anything you love to do?
Favorite guilty pleasure?
Or a
Probably.
song? Maybe you love The Weekend. I don't know.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that ice cream and pizza after a race, or whatever
Totally.
food usually after a race. But yeah, I think that maybe my really like my guilty pleasure is like a hour turbo e-bike ride.
Well, no.
Just mode and go as fast as possible. And that's really
Nah, I love it. That's amazing. Oh yeah, man, sounds perfect right now. Just get out there and rip.
Yeah, I usually just don't feel that guilty though, but I
Totally.
definitely.
Hey, that's okay. Embrace it. Cool. And then one kind of final question I was thinking of: if you were not in mountain biking, like not a racer or a pro, what would you be doing, or what do you think? What was your kind of other dream career?
Ooh, well, I do have a degree in elementary education, so I'd probably be teaching. I was just gonna say in the classroom, but maybe on Zoom this year. In a classroom or on Zoom, but I'd be in a classroom somewhere. Hopefully at some sort of amazing hybrid outdoor school. I think that would be pretty cool.
Totally. That's awesome. And I'm sure it translates well into getting to coach little Groms as well. So that's awesome. And then I have one final weird question, and this is a shout out to my sales team. Would you consider a hot dog a sandwich? Discuss.
No, I wouldn't consider a hot dog a sandwich. I guess it is. No, because it's not two separate pieces of bread.
Okay, so that's the factors, the two separate pieces of bread. Okay,
Yeah,
hot take. I like it.
Not technically sandwiched. It's hot dogged.
Totally. All right.
Yeah.
It's its own thing. All right. I appreciate that. I like it. All right. So anything else you want to add? Obviously, we want to know where to find you on social media and all that fun stuff. But anything else you want to add or mention?
Just if you're wanting to get out there, go find a group ride to go on. I know it's kind of hard with COVID and stuff, but there's plenty of people out there willing to show you around or answer your questions. I'll always answer questions if you message me, and I'm usually pretty good at responding. But we just want more people on bikes. I think that that's the goal, right?
Absolutely.
You can find me on Instagram at Cooper Dendel Ott, and then I'm also on Facebook as well.
Awesome. Cool. And if anyone wants to follow along with your racing, I assume social is the best way to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was super fun. And I'm hopeful that in the next coming weeks, you are welcoming your new baby, and congratulations. You get to do some skiing later today. So thank you again for joining us. It was a joy to get to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And don't forget, guys, thank you again for joining us. And if you have any other follow-up questions that you want to leave in the comments, we can always bug her and get her response too if any burning questions are lingering. So definitely let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know what you thought of the interview. And if you have any other dream guests you want to see on here, we want to hear it. So thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.
We'll see you later.
All right. Should be good in a moment. Sweet.
Yay. Okay, hold on.
Welcome.
I'm trying to end the stream like right when you stop talking. I didn't want to cut you off or